So this begins part 2 of our archery combat conversation with Mistress Theodora. So where we left off, you were talking about a little bit about strategy and tactics, and as a combat archer. Where should we go on that subject?
Part of it is as you are going along in your SCA combat, specifically melee combat life, you will start to notice patterns. You'll start to be able to notice when it looks like the other side is forming up for some kind of charge. Or you'll start to recognize when people in the background are starting to gather and maybe it looks like they're going to try flanking. All of this information needs to be communicated to your side. So as you go on in your experience and gather more experience, feed this information to somebody. Either find commanders that you trust and start specifically giving the information to them, or find units or groups of people that you tend to like to hide behind or tend to like to work with and feed that information to them. The idea is that you have to be on the lookout for what's going on anyway. This is why, as you learn to become a combat archer, you really need to learn how to load and fire without actually looking down to see what your equipment is doing. And you also always need to be on the move because other combat archers are looking for you to shoot you. So, and all of these things are skills that you can learn and skills that you can practice. You can obviously only practice studying melees when there are melees going on, but you can study these even when you're not participating in the melees or when you're participating as marshals. Although I will say, for me, when I'm participating as a marshal, it is really difficult to not then feed that information of what's going on to any of the fighters near me. So I have to fight really hard to maintain my martialate neutrality when I'm like that. Part of it is just also that I really like to talk. So as you're going on, learn all of these things about what's going on the field. Learn how to figure out what's going on just from the way people are moving, the way commanders are gesturing to their people. I mean, and you'll see them gesturing and pointing. And as you're a combat archer, by the way, get used to, oh, they're gesturing and pointing. That's somebody in command. I need to shoot them now.
Actually, that is a really good point. I've heard this over and over again, that there's a hierarchy of targets.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
You are always looking for other combat archers. While you are looking for other combat archers, you're also looking for, yes, war leaders really love it when you shoot them. You're also looking for anybody who seems to be in charge. So this gets really tricky if you are, for example, a combat archer who is also sometimes in charge. The good news is you're also used to looking out for other archers. You're also used to moving. So, and also warn your people when you are behind them. Hi, you've got a combat archer behind you. I am therefore drawing fire. Watch out for other people, for people trying to shoot me, because that means that they will incidentally be trying to shoot you. So other combat archers, anyone pointing and gesturing, so anyone in command, and you're also looking for spearmen. As a matter of fact, there is a website that I highly recommend. I don't know the URL off the top of my head, but do a Google search for 30-foot spear. And that is a wonderful website talking about the tactics that both spearmen and combat archers can use, because in some ways we do actually function as super long spears. I will say that usually in my experience, combat archers have even a better idea of what's going on on the field than spearmen. We are not allowed to target lock. Spearmen a lot of times will get into these duels with each other, and which is also a good time to shoot them. But you know, it sometimes frustrates the spear gods on your side when they're in this really intense duel with another spear god on the other side, and you shoot their opponent, and you're like, come on, dude, let's take the battle somewhere else. We don't need this one-on-one thing. It's a battle. Save it for the save it for the tournament field. But
Somebody beat me to it. They put the spearman 30-foot spearman up in chat.
excellent, excellent. A 35-foot spear.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I like the round numbers, so I always think of it as 30-foot spear. And for some reason,
So how would a general best utilize their archers?
if some generals best utilize their archers by letting their archers do their thing, but explicitly letting the archers know, hey, I don't have time. Sometimes it is simple as, I don't have time to think about what I need the archers to do. I need the archers to do their thing. We don't mind it when we get instructions like that. That's part of we have to be flexible. We have to have the understanding that sometimes their plans have not been made with us in mind. We just have to accept that. A lot of people don't plan for us in particular. So if a commander has the self-knowledge to say, hey, I don't have a plan for the archers, you guys do your thing, then that's when we have to be really on top of our game and do our thing, figuring out our targets. But sometimes if a commander can say, hey, the general idea I have for this is for us to hit their left flank really hard, swing it around, and then just start peppering them. Or my general plan is I want to crash through just to the right of just to the right of the center line, and then swing out and start peppering them from behind. If a commander can say stuff like that to the archers, then we know we can focus on softening up that part of the line that they're going to crash through, or this part of their line that they're going to swing around and attack. Or we can focus on pulling our opponent's focus towards another part of the field, make it look like we're going to come through somewhere else than we really are. We can do all sorts of things if we have some idea of what the commanders want to happen. Somebody has a question. Let me look at the...
I was going to mention that Shosai has been a warlord on a number of occasions. Did you have any thoughts on this, Your Excellency?
She's learned a lot more about combat archery than I have. I had ideas about how to use them, but she's gained a lot more knowledge over the years than I have about combat archery. And she's said everything that I could say so far in the little time that I've been here.
All right, good to know.
What about, I had heard that Sir Takamatsu was particularly good warlord at Gulf War, and he utilized combat archers well. What was his approach?
One of the things that he was good at is he was good at recognizing how much information we can gather and communicate. One of the funny things is, for instance, town battles that combat archery wasn't allowed. He pointed out that just because combat archery isn't allowed, we're fully authorized heavy weapons fighters. There's no reason why combat archers weren't allowed. He actually used us as messengers. And the fact that we had the experience of running around in battles and not dying, especially if nobody's shooting at us, then, you know, we're a lot of us are really good at running away. We could basically go out there, figure out what's going on, come back and let them know, hey, this house over here needs reinforcements, or hey, they're trying to sneak some knights across the river right at here. If you can send somebody there to block them, that could be useful. That sort of information gathering. And that was actually for us kind of a walk in the park. Like I said, nobody was shooting at us. A lot of times in town battles, we're very thoroughly separated from each other until we're not. So yeah, we had a lot of fun just trotting around, getting our steps in, letting them know who was commanding where. Sometimes we could just be like, hey, there's a commander on the other side that's got this heraldry, and that would tell him, oh, hey, I know that guy, I know what tactics he's going to use. And that's another thing, is knowing who uses what tactics is infinitely helpful. Or even just being able to describe in general terms what the heralds, what they're wearing, which of course is very frustrating when you're fighting against Ansjora, because it's like, it's a yellow tabard with a 10-pointed star on it. All of them are yellow tabards with 10-pointed stars on it. Another thing that he was good at doing is actually looking at how many archers he had and using them. Okay, well, we've got 3 archers, let's put them all in the same general area, and then they can focus on one thing in particular. Sometimes he would have one archer who was actually targeting a particular area, and the other 2 archers in the area knew just, all right, we're going to just be putting our crossbow bolts and our arrows in about the same area, and softened them up. Another thing to do is, if you have a bunch of them, break them up into batches. And then each one of those batches focuses on a different area. And that can just be devastating. So Taka did that. As a matter of fact, Sir Jean Paul is another one who at least knows in certain areas, knows where combat archers are most useful. He's really good at field battles. He's a little bit less good at giving us specific instructions for limited front battles, like bridge battles and fort battles. But at the same time, he's also good. Again, he's good with the self-knowledge of, you know what, I don't know what would be the most sensible way to use y'all. How about you go and figure it out? And so at that point, usually a bossy combat archer will take over and start telling the other archers what to do. Sometimes we can work with the siege engines too. And sometimes you have good siege engineers who can say, hey, because a siege engineer will fire into a unit and that scatters the unit. And while they're scattering, they get distracted from defending themselves against arrows. So things like that. I want to answer a question that was in the chat. Just glancing at it, it's hard for me to tell. With glancing at it, and since I'm not actually seeing it in person, it's hard for me to tell if that particular crossbow would be a good combat crossbow. Part of it has to do with the inch pounds, which it doesn't. Again, I was glancing at it, so I can't tell if it falls within our maximum poundages. And partially, I'm trying to remember, I always get it confused whether it's a modern trigger or it's a modern something. There's a detail about certain kind of modern things that we cannot use, obviously sights. All right, I again, I don't know if that design it sounds like it's good for rubber band guns. I don't know if it's good for crossbows. I will go ahead and look at it after the class is over and see if it does give me enough information, reading through all the fine print to see if it is or isn't. I'm much better at telling if you bring it to me in person. But if you don't own it and you're thinking about buying it, you don't want to buy it just on the off chance.
Poundage for a crossbow, I think, is maximum 85, isn't it?
No. It's all about the inch pounds. And for those who have engineering or physics background, don't at me. This is something that was decided way before I have anything to do with it. And we just have to go with the math that we have available to us. Maybe things will change, maybe things will not change. There are eternal experiments about chronographs, which they use in paintball. I have no idea if these things will end up being applicable to SCA combat archery at all. But life is a state of change. Who
So
knows?
what does inch poundage mean?
Oh, okay. In general, so first of all, picture a regular old hand bow. So you have the bow. All right, good. Somebody has put some of the information in chat. But for those of us who are more visual learners or more verbal, maybe, let me see if I can explain it reasonably shortly. So if you picture a regular bow that's strung properly, you've got the arch and you've got the straight string. And so there's a certain space between the belly of the bow and the string, which for modern mass-produced bows, oh, somebody's sharing their screen, okay, is usually about 8 inches. This is about 7 inches because this is my hand. Good job drawing. When you pull that string back, eventually it gets to approximately the length of the arrow, which is for combat arrows, 28 inches. That bow can be exerting no more than 35 pounds of pressure at that 28 inches of draw. Note that that 28 inches includes that approximately 8 inches between the relaxed string and the belly of the bow. So if you lie this down, make it horizontal, you will notice that a crossbow also has the bow and the string. It is unlikely that there will be 8 inches because you have a much shorter bow. So you have a much shorter distance between that curved bow and the straight string. On a crossbow, the bow is frequently called a prod. So you're not gonna be able to draw that back 28 to 28 inches. So your crossbow bolts are not gonna be 28 inches long. There are exceptions to everything, but usually the shorter the bow, but in general, the shorter the bow, the shorter the draw can be, which can make a very efficient bow. So the good news is just because it's short, don't mean it doesn't have a lot of power. You can see why I like this observation. But crossbows are not generally built to the same level of consistency for the poundage of the bow and how far they get pulled back as hand bows are. Like I said, a lot of modern hand bows, mass produced, they are certain poundage at 28 inches of draw. They've chosen 28 inches of draw because that's a good general draw. I personally have a natural draw of 25 inches when I am pulling to my anchor point. When I was shooting hand bow, I just overdrew because it was a 30-pound bow and I could train to do that fairly easily. If I had to work with a 50-pound bow, no, not me personally, I don't train that frequently. Some people do. And, some people also have the advantage of being taller than me, or having longer arms than me, or having natural upper body strength more impressively than me. So what we do with these crossbows is, and of course, for hand bows, I gotta backtrack a little. Hand bows, there's variation there. As a matter of fact, that can be a tactic. If you're using a hand bow during combat archery, you don't always have to pull it back to 28 inches, especially if somebody's very near you and you want to be nice to them. Like you've got a nice armpit shot lined up. Not everybody needs to be shot as hard as humanly possible. Or if you do need to loft it at short range, you can draw it back a little bit, let go, and just pop it up and over. And a lot of times you can just surprise the daylights out of somebody and get them with a face shot that came in from the sky. Crossbows can't do that. Every crossbow has one place where the string locks. That's where the string is going to lock every single time. That's the way they work. That is both their mechanical advantage and their mechanical disadvantage. You cannot half draw a crossbow. So that means every time you fire a crossbow, it's very, very consistent. Unless something catastrophic happens somewhere in there, like the bow snaps, the weather has all of a sudden unloosed a downpour on you, and your natural fiber string has gotten stretched and is, you get my point.
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask Joe Ari, he's been a warlord as well at Gulf War. Is there anything you would like to add or share?
I mean, realistically, Theodora, she definitely knows her stuff, and I've missed the majority of her meeting. So I really don't know what has already been covered. So I don't really know that I have much to add tonight.
Okay.
Understood. We have about 7 more minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
Yes.
but some of the general things that you've shared actually have been shared in some of the other command and leadership. The importance of situational awareness in battle, and the importance of communication on the line. It seems that combat archers are particularly attuned to situational awareness. And so they're very adept at communicating that information, hopefully, to those people that need it.
What I will say that combat archers have unique possibilities of being particularly attuned to the battlefield. Not all combat archers are created equal. I mean, there are some brand new combat archers who are stunningly good at figuring out what's going on the field. There are some, very, very experienced combat archers who are not very good at figuring out what's going on in the field. Again, commanders need to know their combat archers, and combat archers need to know their commanders. So we really, really need to, we all need to accept that we're on the same team, and we also need to figure out what our own individual strengths are, and we can let our commanders know, or the commanders can ask them. I mean, there is no harm whatsoever in saying, hey, I've seen you out here before. What do you think your strengths are as a combat archer? I want to figure out how to use you best. And that helps the combat archer think about it too, because some people are just kind of doing it instinctively. But if they have to stop and think about it, they might be able to figure out, oh, yeah, you know what? I am much better when I am out here on the edge of the field and just, looking for targets to snipe. And then we know that person, all right, they're looking for targets to snipe. Maybe then they can also pass on the information about, hey, I can't reach this other guy, but there's somebody here that I can reach, and send another combat archer over to get the one that they can't reach, or that's too wary for them. Maybe they can draw their attention and somebody can get them from a different angle.
All right. Is there anything you would like to see done differently at Gulf War with the combat archers? Is there anything that you would like to communicate to, let's say, a general, of the things that you would like to be able to do that you haven't been able to do?
Mostly it's just I would like for either a combat archer or somebody who is in touch with the combat archers to be included in the battle plans, just so we know what's going on. If you don't want input from us, that's fine, we get it. But at the same time, if we have an idea of what the Trimarian commanders want to accomplish in any particular battle, I promise you, we will help.
Mhm. Awesome. Any final thoughts or words that you want to share? We have about 4 minutes.
I really appreciate the support that the combat archers and Trimaris in particular have gotten over all of the years that I've been doing it. I really appreciate all of the commanders who have asked, who have tried to understand what it is we're doing, who have tried to figure out how to use us the most efficiently. Even the ones who have said, you know, I don't know what you guys do, but you guys know what you do, so keep on doing it.
Trust.
I appreciate that.
They're trusting you.
Yeah,
You
I
do.
really do appreciate that.
Very good. Well, I appreciate everybody that's come to join us today. And this has been very cool because it's been a beginner introductory class on part 1. And this second part has been much more about strategy and tactics on war on the battlefield. So it's a really good combination. And I hope to see everybody at Gulf War in just a few months. I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you.